We are back on Amo's stage with Scenmåndag, this time in English, and it's interesting to speak English sometimes, and I like it. I welcome you to this discussion, which will focus on artists with a foreign background living and working in Finland. The discussion can also be seen as the second opening of a festival taking place, actually beginning tomorrow. The new theater festival, the opening gala was on Saturday, but it begins tomorrow on Nicken stage here at Svenska Teatern, and it will last for 3 weeks, so you have a lot of time to take part of really nice theater. And it celebrates diversity, of course, and multilingualism in the Finnish theater industry. Say hello to our guests today. We have director and professor Saana Lavaste.
Hello.
Pedagogue and researcher Davide Giovanzana.
Hello.
And artist Anastasia Trizna.
Hi.
And last but not least, artist Godwin Otieno.
Hello.
I think it would be nice to begin with a short presentation of all of you. If you all could tell us about your background and how did you end up here. We start with you, Godi.
Great.
Who are you?
Who am I? Beautiful question. My full name is Godwin Otieno, as you've heard. Mostly I'm called Godi. It's easier to remember. I'm from Kenya, originally, Eastern Africa, for those who might not know. I've been dancing since I was a kid. Professionally, since 2009. I moved to Finland in 2018 during COVID time, and it was rough. In my majors, I concentrate on exploration of movement, so I don't really fit in any particular box of style.
Okay. And Anastasia, where do you come from? Who are you?
I feel awfully unprepared to answer this question. No, of course, I mean, it's a question you're supposed to know the answer like that, but it always is, or it can be sometimes confusing, especially when you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
Because you end up juggling so many things at the same time, which I do in my professional life. But yeah, I am mainly an actor. A multilingual actor. I'm also a singer. I'm also a stage fighter.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
And
sounds scary.
Oh, actually, it's not. It's lovely. It's just, yeah. It's one of the special skills which is very interesting to explore, and it's very useful in nowadays film industry and also in stage from time to time. And also I've directed some productions and produced quite a bunch of projects. So in a nutshell, I think that's what I do. I graduated from St. Petersburg State Theatre Academy a long time ago in 2008. And I have been working with the music and theater, with music since my childhood. It's been a part of my identity. And with theater since probably 2003. And I started working in the theater while I was still a student. And then I moved to Helsinki in 2009.
2009, okay.
Yeah, so
shortly after you graduated.
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, most of my professional career has been actually here in Finland. So it was very interesting to be a fresh graduate and at the same time a fresh newcomer in a new country. So I had to challenge both things at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. But good to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
And Davide, What's your story? Who are you?
So, my name is Davide Giovanzana, and it sounds Italian, but actually my mother tongue is French. I was born in Geneva, and this duality has been already kind of personal trauma in my childhood. Probably we will talk about this later. I spoke a little bit during the gala about this anxiety of having two nationalities. I started actually not as an actor or director, but as a painter. That was my first education. But then I started to do also theater. I lived in Brussels, Italy, then US. And then in 2004, I moved to Finland. And when I arrived here, I started my first job as an actor. But then I continued my studies at TEAC with the Swedish department.
Nice.
So Erik Söldebrom kind of opened the institution for me. I managed to do my master in the Swedish department. Then I did my PhD in the Swedish department. Then I did my postdoc in the Swedish department. So I have a long tradition with the Swedish department here at TEAC. And actually, funny enough, is that similarly as Anastasia, as a theater director, I started here in Finland. So as a director, I should consider myself Finnish, because it's here where I started really to direct also on a professional level. And then when I arrived here, I continued my studies, and then I also put a step in the institution, and at one point I was a visiting professor in artistic research at TEAC in Tutke, and now I'm a university lecturer in acting at NATU, Tampere University.
Yeah, and you're also one of two artistic directors of the New Theatre Helsinki Festival.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's...
I will probably come back on this later this evening.
Maybe, yeah. And Saana.
Yes.
Tell us, where do you come from? Who are you?
Well,
nice to have you here.
Well, I'm from Finland, so I'm like born here, and like I wondered why I was asked this. But maybe I'm here to represent this kind of a other point of view of maybe seeing how this field is changing with these new questions. And of course, I trained as a theatre director in Theatre Academy, and now I'm working as a professor there. Before I trained as a theatre director, I did studied like applied theatre, like forum theatre, and this type of community theatre-based practices. And then in my professional life, I've been trying to combine these things, kind of how would you say, kind of artistic theatre and then applied theatre. Okay. That's been my kind of one of my big interests. Now I've been bearing this title of professor, which is still a bit funny, but I'm a professor in theatre directing. Well, because our field is not academic in that sense, or it's experimental and it's about doing. And of course, I understand that being academic means something like I should now be, like when I'm suddenly became professor. I didn't do any thesis ever. I'm a master, So it's this funny thing that you are a professor without actually doing research in a way. But of course, you can consider research the artistic work you do also. But maybe this is some identity question for me and for many others, that what is like academic art and academically teaching art. But from my point of view, of course, I've been here at the Helsinki Theatre Academy now 7 years, and during that we have had like Me Too, we have had Black Lives Matter, and this is a community that takes all these crises very seriously, and they are very maybe even more there than in a larger field, because there are a lot of ambitious sensitive, intelligent young people who really want to understand these phenomena. So it's been a very interesting time. So maybe I can bring something from that to this discussion.
Yeah, we hope so.
But also, am I correct that now you have a master in English?
Yes, we opened our MA program. So now I have like a first student from outside Europe. She's coming from Iran.
That's wonderful.
So like these things are happening slowly. We have some Icelandic people, and then we have one from Iran. Of course, I take in like 4 to 6 students a year, so really small numbers. But this was why we wanted to open it, our MA, to larger group of applicants, was that we felt that like this is so small thing. We have only education in Finland educating theatre directors in the MA level in the whole country. So it's really funny if we don't have any interaction between other countries, and So, but it's a new thing. Also, some people are afraid because this theatre is so bound to language that what is going to happen is everybody needing to speak English only. Is there room for Finnish or Swedish anymore? So all these language questions are coming up in the school a lot. But I have felt that it's very enriching thing. Of course, it demands a little new strategies to the pedagogy. What is multilinguality in pedagogy? And if somebody studies French and can't speak English at all, so what are we going to do then? And this type of questions come up, very practical questions every day.
So let's talk about the field and diversity, because I suppose as an artistic, non-very academic, as you said, field, you suppose that is very open-minded, that you welcome lots of different types of people and cultures and ways of seeing and living. But how diverse is this field? How do you feel? Anastasia, for example.
It is, and it isn't.
Yes, good answer.
Yeah. Well, I think there is a very big difference, in my opinion, between the independent art field and cultural field of Finland and then the state houses. And the independent field, I think, is very brave in looking for new ways of combining different genres, of finding these inter-genre collaborations, and also independent field is very open to languages, to multilingualism, not very precise. Actually, not at all. Like the background that you have, would it be linguistic or other, is perceived more as a richness that you bring into the project. So in that sense, it's very diverse. At the same time, when you talk about the institutions, I see that there is a giant work to do. And there is many things happening, and it was interesting. Last year we started a group led by Jasmin, who is also leading a youth group in New Theatre Helsinki, as a part of Union of Actors in Finland, the diversity group. So we started investigating actually what are the issues, and we made our survey, and we came out with a very sad results. But now I think what is important is that it's being like more and more talked on all possible levels, and in multiple different organizations are addressing the same issue. So I think during the last maybe like 2-3 years, this is maybe a 5th discussion, or I don't know, 10th discussion, maybe 5th that I participate in, but there is dialogue, discussion going about that all the time. So,
but that's wonderful.
Yeah,
we need these discussions, and I mean, every sixth inhabitant in Helsinki has another, hasn't, the mother tongue is not Finnish or Swedish. So that means that there are a lot of people who maybe want to go to the theater, they want to see their stories represented, they need, we all need culture, we all need theater, and the world is changing, and Finland is changing fastly. You came to Finland like 5 years ago. Have you already seen changes in a good direction?
I could say that in the time span that I moved to Finland, so the first 2 years were definitely a downslope because of COVID. There was literally no work for freelance work, especially since I major in freelance. There was literally no physical spaces that you could actually go to practice your craft. That was challenging, and meaning that we had to rely as an artist on your revenue that you've saved, and also kind of look now, okay, let's look at Finland. What opportunities are there? Okay, now let me go online. What can I find? That was tough. But I have to say that I made a choice to apply for an audition, which was actually the first audition I ever saw in Finland since I moved. And I went without any expectation, and that was my first opportunity to get into the Finnish scene.
And what was that project?
Yeah, so it was the Eurovision Uuden Musiikki
song contest. Okay.
So I went as a dancer. Yeah. So I went for the audition, and I got my first job in Finland through that.
Yeah, and that's a quite international platform, I suppose, like music.
So it's just like an addition on top to what Anastasia already said, is that in the freelance, like the independent scene, you will definitely get opportunities to work with people who actually are interested with that, different flavors, spices, as I say. And in the other institution, like, I would like to see more brown bodies on stage. And it's not that it's a necessity, but it is a necessary thing, that we have equal representation in all matters that affect our societies.
Yeah.
There's many voices, and I believe there is hope that we're actually heading towards there. It's a slow one, for sure, but we're heading there slowly.
Have you ever found a theater that tells a story that you can relate to here in Finland?
No.
Not so much.
Not so much, to be honest. I've been to a couple of performances to watch and support my other friends, also practitioners. And rarely I do feel connected to some of the stories, but visually, and as an artist, I can see the scape of how everything works and looks, and it's beautiful. But internally, there's always the conflict of like, that's a beautiful performance indeed.
Yeah.
But the connection for me lacks in depth.
Davide, you've been working a lot in lots of different countries, both in Europe and the US, and you've seen a lot. How do you look at the field here in Finland? You came here in, was it 15 years ago?
20? Yeah, 2004.
4, yeah. Like almost 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you have seen, I suppose you have seen lots of changes. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, there are many things that, also to answer your question in the beginning, that we should tackle. And it's not only the issue of language that you were mentioning before. But for instance, when I arrived here, it was very hard to get some recognition about the work. And it was a big struggle to get visibility. And at first I thought it was my problem, that I was not good enough. So this is why I was not getting any visibility in the media, was not acknowledged. Of course, I could do my own stuff. I could find ways to raise money and present my work, but the actual acknowledgement from, let's say, from the professionals, from the media, it was very hard to get that. And that went on for many years until with David Kozma, we kind of both realized that, hey, maybe it's not that we are not good enough. Maybe there is something in the structure that
And David
creates...
Kosma is the other artistic
Exactly.
leader of the festival.
Exactly.
And he's from Romania?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we realized that actually maybe is not the problem is not us, but there is something in this structure that put us in the corner or make us invisible. So we need to find another way to get visibility. So it's because the paradox is that, for instance, there was Pavel Rudnev, who is a critic and one of the main critiques from the Russian theater, representing the MKHAT, which is maybe the national theater of Russia. And they had every year a collaboration with one country, and they invited 3 directors from France to direct in Russia, 3 directors from Italy, and then in 2014 they had 3 directors from Finland. And so he invited Lauri Maijala, Lea Klemola, and was looking for a 3rd one, and then he saw my work. And then he wanted to invite me as a Finnish director, which created a little bit a problem, like, what? Is this a Finnish? Is he Finnish? He's a Finnish citizen. Can he represent Finland? So he created a lot of issues where, for instance, if you go to Berlin or to Brussels, you can have Omar from Lebanon, based in Berlin, representing the new scene of the German theater. But here in Finland, it was a big issue. So as a Finnish director, I got more acknowledgement abroad, also in Latvia and Germany, than in Finland. To the paradox that once also Hesari made a critique about a show that I made and considered as a foreigner production, comparing it to other Finnish productions. So of course it was very humiliating. And then with David, so we realized that, okay, if we continue alone, we will just remain invisible. So we need to come together and create this initiative, and we call it New Theatre Helsinki, that brings us together and ask for visibility. Because the issue is not just about representation, like, okay, let's have this person here, so we have the color one, and then we have the Middle East one. But it's also about the choices and the stories that are told. So it goes also on who has the power to make decisions, and who gets the funding.
Exactly.
So that's becoming almost like a political choice and much more complicated, where there is a question of trust. Like, do we trust to give space to, let's say, these people?
Yeah, but speaking about like giving space, do you think that a like white Finnish or Swedish speaking actors or theater makers, should they, this is my question, should they like give space in a way, and how do they do this? Giving space to BIPOC or foreign makers. Like you get a job and then, no, I won't take it because I want Ahmed to have it. Or, I mean, we have to have a system, or what do you think?
Well, I hope that on one hand we are very thankful to the Svenska Theater that somehow they gave us this free stage and they said, okay, you have the Niken stage for 3 weeks, go ahead. And we made a call and we could make a selection, 45 applicants and some propositions, and we made a festival. And that's a chance for a lot of people that did not have the possibility to get on an institutional stage to show their work.
Yeah.
And that's where also the trust come in the sense to present work that maybe don't follow the traditional way to tell stories, to present stories. And that's where the trust comes in, because there is a certain way how stories should be presented. And also among the audience, there is a kind of habit or what to expect.
Yeah.
And here it's a question, Of course, we need to be, we need to dare, we need to be, we need to take challenges, but dare to present stories in another way.
Yeah.
To surprise the audience, and also the audience be ready to be surprised. So yes, there is a lot of daring, but I think we are in a situation, and the fact that this is the 6th panel discussion that
that was approximate, but I was actually
that maybe there is an awareness that maybe it's time to show something different.
I was thinking about the strategies that because it is such a large issue, and for example, you with the experience that you have with the students and in the theatre academy know very well about how it can't be, it shouldn't be the responsibility of a fellow actor who is taking or not taking an open position, because actually the reality in general of, for instance, freelance actors in Finland is challenging enough. And thinking that I think it's over 70% of actors that are officially registered in the Actors Union are freelancers. So the issue with employment and with the job market in the field of art and culture in Finland is not only connected to diversity, but there are other struggles behind it, and there are actually new strategies that have to be done, in my opinion, on societal level and on decision-making level to improve the situation. But then when we come to the diversity and inclusion, then it's also, it has so many points that it has to be happening simultaneously on so many different levels and from so many different sides. Like there is the issue of, for example, education, that who is even deciding to go for the artistic education in Finland, how many people would consider and think that I will not even dare to apply because there is nothing for me to look there. I will anyway not be represented in the field. Or people who study abroad, would they be Finnish people who study abroad, or then foreign people who then, after studying abroad, move to Finland, finding their ways into the circles? Because also I realized that when talking about the wonderful independent field, which is wonderful, but still there is also the issues of circles. And maybe it's natural, maybe it's in every society, but maybe it is especially visible here because we are not that many. So very soon you start recognizing very particular groups of people who start just doing things together in their own small groups, in their own small bubbles. And then, so how to create the strategies that would help these bubbles to start collaborating with each other.
We didn't even have audition culture a few years ago.
That's one of the
Because you knew everybody, so you could call.
Yes.
So even, like you said, you didn't even have auditions to go to. So, I mean, we are just moving into audition. Oh, you can actually ask people. Like, there might be someone we didn't know who comes.
That's maybe part of the problem also, because it's a small country, and so you get quite close. Yeah. Like, you close the doors, and that's for us. This is us. But Saana, I would like to hear your comments on what Anastasia just said, and then I know that, and as we just said, that you have been increasing diversity in the University of Arts, for example, by opening master's programming in directing for non-Finnish or Swedish speakers. What have you learned or noticed during this? You must have had a lot of, not obstacles maybe, but you have had to think of stuff in a different way.
Yes. Well, one thing is that I totally agree that the education is one bottleneck, for sure.
Yeah.
That, and of course that we all professors are white Finnish speakers or Swedish speakers. Like, I mean, we have
But you have a fellow teacher here.
Yes, and he's in Näty.
Yeah, in Tampere. Tammerfors. Yeah, but
well, I mean, we have had some professors for a period that didn't have Finnish as their first language. But for example, we are all white, for example. So, I mean, one question is also how easy is for someone who is not presented in the teachers, like to kind of see themselves as a student or a teacher in that school.
Yeah.
And these are the same questions like people applied full-time in an institution, be it the Theatre Academy or Svenska Teater. It isn't going to be a quick change, of course. People are going to... And then, of course, it's always hard for the ones who come first. That's one thing I've noticed. That if we have like a student that doesn't speak Finnish as a first language, but maybe talks bad Finnish, and that's like new thing. So even the other students can be a little bit suspicious because it's a lot about expressing your vision, like directing. You should be able to charm people with your speech in a way. And if you can't really do that in Finnish, it's demanding for people to trust you in a way. That's really like, does he really know what he wants to do, or like this type of feeling. So there are cultural differences. Now we have also working groups. We have a lot of exchange students, and the diversity is growing. So we can have maybe 4 different national backgrounds in one working group. When becomes very interesting situations because people have very different hierarchical cultures, like maybe, I don't know, Scandinavian culture is a bit different from, I don't know, Central European or Russian or Iranian.
Do you agree, Davide?
So what kind of leadership, for example, you want to see? Or do you see it as a good leadership that you give a lot of space, or a good leadership that you take, the wheel very strongly? So very interesting situations and very important developments going on. So we are learning so much all the time. But about how to open it up, how to make it feel that everyone can apply. It's a very difficult question. Now we have something that's called student ambassadors. That would represent maybe these underrepresented groups, and maybe would go to some schools and say, hey, I'm studying there, maybe you could also. So we are trying to find those strategies, but it's like also looking from this white perspective that I represent, that I went to that school in a time that everybody was white. So it's very difficult for me. It's like a blind spot for the whole organization in that sense. So we're trying to find the ways of seeing. I think it would be super interesting and important to hear a lot from these pioneers that are there, and also to try to, of course, increase the diversity in the staff. I think these are... But as said, it's not going to be a quick process.
It takes time. And Godi, I would like to ask you about safe space and environments, because that's something that you write about on your website. How do you go about in finding or thinking about safe space and safe environments in Finland? And what does it mean?
So, well, first of all, thanks for going to my website and reading all that.
It's a nice website.
Yes. I really do believe that as an artist, for me to be able to create and, share my experiences with everybody, that I have to myself feel like I can be 100%, whole. That I'm not concerned about, or is somebody concerned about how I look, or how I talk, how I dress, because that already represents safety, and I try that in my work, that I really express everything that I've seen, and I've seen a lot in my perspective, and I always believe that for me to be able to make somebody experience who I am, that they have to first be able to understand that it's not a matter of how I look or how I perceive to look, but it's about the exchange. How do you feel the energy connection between me and you? If I perform here and you're watching me, what is the feeling you get when I do a specific move, or when I make a specific expression, or I stand there and just stare at you? It's all about the conversation. So for me, that is the safe space.
Yeah.
That information exchange that we have. And I try to do that every single time I'm on stage.
And you're also teaching young people.
Yes.
And I suppose that you also want to give them the safe space when you're teaching, actually in Oulunkylä, here in Helsinki. What can you tell about their work
so
with the youngsters?
I have been teaching youths for many years, maybe about 10, 12. But working with the New Theatre Helsinki here has been, it's been inspiring, to be honest, because you meet a group of shy but very sweet people who actually want to become artists. And you can see they have so much passion. So that inspires me, because I'm like, I have no excuses. I have to keep doing, because you can see that you're transforming something, you're giving something, and they're also teaching you something, you know, especially since I'm from a bit of a older generation and they're the new school. They teach some new stuff about what's trending now, how we do things now. So kind of learning from that also. They show that we have a world where we can actually do something that can be meaningful to everybody without putting barriers.
Are they like mostly young people with foreign background, or is it like?
Actually, most of them are like
from here.
Yeah, from Finland. But I think they do have roots. I think from Central and Eastern Europe. Also,
okay.
Most of my students, but yeah, amazing bunch. That's what I would say.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Anastasia, we're going to see you on Svenska Teaterns big stage this autumn.
Yes, you
and
will.
And you're going to act in Swedish, which you don't
Surprise.
speak
Okay.
yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yet is the really important word now, because you're now learning how to speak Swedish and how to act in Swedish. Tell us about your feelings about this upcoming.
Thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
I'm delighted to talk about it, because it's wonderful to be now a part of Swedish Theatre Ensemble, and
let's say it's Ronja Rövardotter.
Oh yeah.
We didn't
public.
say that. Yeah.
I have one of the roles in Ronja, and surprisingly enough, so it's going to be my first production in Swedish language in Finland, and my first theatre production in Finnish language in Finland was also Ronja.
Really?
Yes, 10 years ago. Mario
You
Kuusela.
have that Astrid Lindgren spirit, maybe.
There's something about it. So it's really funny kind of loop, because it's been 10 years ago approximately, and actually coming to the question of languages and performing in a foreign language or not your mother tongue. And it has been coming up now in discussion from time to time, this issue of language, and also language being a part of your identity, and then daring to what you have been telling about the trust to the, for instance, director, if you're not able to present yourself well enough in for instance, Finnish. But that also comes to actors and or in general now I'm trying to gather. I got a bit too excited. Somebody have to help me now here.
Did you
about
lose
something else? I lost totally the
Doesn't matter.
my thought. But it was an important thought.
It was something about language and acting in a...
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So it has been very interesting to follow my own journey here in Finland, and realizing that for so many years I have been considering that me not speaking Finnish as a mother tongue is a sort of like a professional handicap for myself. And I felt like for a long time very apologetic about it. So every time I would apply for a certain role, I would start with the fact that I'm sorry, I do not speak Finnish as my mother tongue. And then I was sincerely concerned whether I would be even considered, because I don't speak it as a mother tongue. And then it took me so many years, and it took me so many productions, which I do. I mean, I work, for the last 13 years of my life, I work in 3 languages, which is, like, in a hindsight, it's quite an achievement. I realized that, okay, why do I think about it as something that I have to be apologetic about, rather than see it as my strength, and realize that actually it's my super skill to be able to perform in a language which is not my mother tongue and still be good as an actor, as a performer in it. And productions like Sivullinen, where the last production we've done with Davide together, where there has been a crazy amount of text in Finnish, and then realizing and having people coming to me and then saying that, thank you so much, your Finnish was so comprehensive. Especially from some people who don't speak Finnish as a mother tongue. So I wish that there would be a way that we could change our working culture and our educational culture here in Finland to be able to embrace this multilingualism, and then also realize that, for instance, like now having the motivation of studying Swedish because of passing the audition and getting the part in Ronja, it's skyrocketing. I mean, my Swedish is becoming my like daily habit. I want to learn it, and that is a great way to embrace the language of, I hope it's correct to say that the language of minority, like linguistic minority in Finland. But then at the same time, I was thinking about the Finnish language, that if you think about it globally, Finnish is such a small language group that every single of us who manages to learn Finnish or Swedish or any other language, but talking about Finnish, on a level that we can perform, yes, there will be an accent. Yes, there will. But we should hear these accents on stage. We should see them on screen. We should make people welcomed to speak broken Finnish or broken Swedish.
Yeah, and I think that the audience get used to it. If you see it more and more, you get to understand that this is a part of how we are in Finland. And humble is good, but apologizing about who you are and what languages you can speak is not necessarily
I think
a good thing.
So just to add on that, for me also, I find myself being in these situations where you find yourself being apologetic for situations where you could just be yourself. Because maybe I won't get that role, For example, some roles you have to cut your hair, and for me, my hair is part of my heart. So I find it very difficult in this kind of situations. And then I'm like, but you start being apologetic for things you shouldn't be, and representation. By what I mean is that even on the screen, what you're saying is that when you keep watching something on TV, let's say an ad, and it keeps going, and it's the same face you see. Subconsciously, it sticks.
Yeah.
So that's why media is such a powerful tool, that what you continuously see is what sticks. So what the society sees as the norm, that is what becomes the norm in our brains subconsciously and continuously and continuously and continuously. So we have to shift that in a way that the perspectives become so aligned that everybody is like, oh, this is a normal thing. Like, oh, wait, there's actually a black guy in that one. Oh, wait, there's actually a brown guy. Like, it shouldn't be like a thing that, there is that. Like, it should be normal.
This reminds me, I was doing a production. It was a collaboration between my theater company, so a Finnish production, and a French. And we were in Wissembourg in France to work with the French actors. So let's say the artistic team was Finnish, but the actors were French. And so there was the set designer, and we were in France. It was one evening after the rehearsal, and we were in our apartment. And then we started to watch TV. And then there was a commercial. And then the set designer, she's Finnish, she was looking, and then she looked at the commercial in France, and then she said, wow, I just realized now how white is the commercial in Finland.
Yeah.
That there it was totally normal that the diversity of people in the commercial. And this, I use this like the normality, not being apologetic, because I had a similar experience. And to connect with you, I think the diversity question should not be seen like, oh, let's make a favor to these poor immigrant or these communities living here. Like, let's be now condescending and gentle towards them. I think it should be really reverse the issue, because I think this is more like a chance for the Finnish theater to renew itself. Because I think coming from abroad and seeing what's happening in France, in other parts of Europe, but also in the US, I see a bigger diversity and much more creative things on stage than what is presented here. I think that here there is a kind of we are very pleased with one type of doing theater, and there is not so much challenge.
But I totally agree with this, that I don't really think that diversity questions should be like putting a tick on the box that now we are a good organization or I'm a good person. But I think genuinely it is a richer conversation, it's a richer dialogue, and theater is all about dialogue. So the more you have perspectives, I think the better show is going to be. So I think it's totally like a selfish artistic point of view. That is what I think. And about this nationality question, I think it's like the headline is who belongs to Finland, and I have a dear friend, Rodolfo Vasquez, who is a Brazilian theater director and educator in Sao Paulo, and we have been working in collaboration, and I asked him to come in Finland and have a course in what is Finnish on stage. So he came from Brazil to teach this course, and he thought that it was super funny. But it was based on this discussion that I realized that Finnish theater is really based originally about language. You know, as we know, Lea was the first Finnish performance. So I think it's, of course, language question in Swedish too. So I think it's breaking this kind of tradition, which is difficult, that we identify like Finnish culture and theater as a protector of this minority language. This is threatened by Russia or Sweden or something. That we have to have this Finnish, protective art field to have our like independence somehow. So I think it's very deeply rooted in our history, this question of protecting the Finnish language. Probably Swedish too.
And the culture.
And the culture. And then it was funny because Rodolfo comes, and Brazil, you can't know who's Brazilian by looking at their face or whatever. So they are all like people who look like Japanese, Indian, whatever, like Caucasian. Everybody can be like born in Brazil. So he said that, it's funny with your Europeans and your idea of national state. And I said, what's funny about it? He said, you came up with this idea and it doesn't exist in other places. So, and I never thought of it like that. But he said that you wonder why people feel after second, third generation immigrants and they don't belong. And then they do stupid stuff. And you wonder why. But it is because of this ideal that you have to speak the language, you have to look a certain way to be able to be considered like Finnish or Swedish or whatever. And that's like he said that it's just so problematic concept. But I never thought, I think this was a real gift from Brazil to realize this. And this is why I invited him to have this course. And it was funny, they tried to do things that would be really Finnish and on stage, and then to tweak it a bit and twist it, and it was very funny. And again, it came from Brazil. I think it would have been impossible for me to have this course in the same way with my students.
And to go in the same line, I mean, this idea of what is the narrative of Finnish identity, what is to be Finnish, it works not only against, let's say, about immigrants, but also against its own citizen. I was in Kemi doing a community work, and among the different communities participating in this work, there was a youth theater group. And then in this group, there was a girl whose father was Rom and the mother Sami. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. She can speak Finnish, Swedish, English, Sami, and Romani. And then I asked her, wow, this is amazing. So you can really speak. Yeah, this is how I spoke at home, Sami and Romani. Well, could you then say some of the lines in Sami and some in Romani?
Yeah.
And then she went white, and she was saying, no, I cannot. And I was like, why? Oh, come on, it's Romani. So she was ashamed. She was ashamed about her own cultural background, even though it's people from Finland, and she wanted to be, let's say, Finnish. She didn't want to stick out from the group. She wanted to be Finnish and spoke only Finnish. And so this is why this narrative, it really kills also its own citizen, because then you do everything to fit to what's this narrative, and you don't allow yourself to celebrate also the diversity that it's part
like
of
you already celebrated. Wow, this is so cool. You can speak all those languages, and she didn't see it like that at all. So exactly what Anastasia said.
Sorry. No. At this point, I could ask the audience if you have any questions to the guests. You may. Yes, please.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lutando. I'm from South Africa, but based in Stockholm. I speak Xhosa and English. And my question is this, and I think partly also it's artistically. What are the conversations that directors need to have in terms of incorporation of like someone who doesn't speak Finnish, or someone who speaks Finnish or Swedish, but not so perfectly? Because I also, in my mind, I think artistically, because I've done it, you know, I'm in Sweden, and I was performing, mixing, you know, Xhosa, English and Swedish, and the kids, you know, and everywhere we went, they were like, yeah. And then after that, after I left the company, it's been hard to get work, you know, and everyone kind of has been pushing me to learn Swedish perfectly. They're like, no, you'll be perfect. Everyone will want you, but you need to speak, you know, perfect Swedish. But I'm like, but I'm Xhosa, and I come from South Africa. Why am I suddenly dropping all of that knowledge and that rich culture and background? Just I get to Sweden now, I'm like, I need to speak this language perfectly and forget about myself, in a sense. Another thing I would like to ask, because I also feel that theaters tends to say, oh, we're against the isms, you know, racism and blah, 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 blah. But when the issues happen, for example, with an audience member, you know, saying something that's kind of very uncomfortable, theaters tend to run away from that. They want to address only things that happens to actors, you know. And I'm like, what about that? Because those are people that regularly come to watch the shows, and how are you not addressing that when an actor expresses themselves that, hey man, I felt something very uncomfortable, or someone said this, and they were not part of the cast, but they were an audience member.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah. Two really big questions and comments came from the audience. A guy from South Africa who lives in Stockholm, Sweden. And I can't remember, like I have to put it really short. Like the first one was, what conversations should directors have in order to welcome people? And the other one, let's start with that one. Let's start. Is there anybody of you who wants?
Well, I can come as a professor of directing.
Good, the academic one here. Good.
I think for freelancers, I mean, I've just studied a lot of leadership, and I'm trying to teach leadership. I think one thing is that I brought leadership studies to directing program. Before that, it was thought that leadership would be something that just lands on you when you start directing and you know about the art. So to understand leadership kind of as a separate thing, you have to study, you have to learn, you have to understand. And then art is important, but combining these two is the thing. So I think to become to get more knowledge about like group phenomena, how to talk with people, dialogue, non-violent communication, like things like this. I think it's super important for everybody in these times when we are more diverse in the groups. We cannot assume that we know the same concepts, we have the same working culture. So you have to be able to give those concepts and talk about them and, you know, make it accessible. So this is one answer. And then, of course, the same thing in this organization. So if you are coming as a freelancing director to an organization, you don't have that much space necessarily. So I think also it's a leadership question of the whole organization to kind of create audition cultures, to create, you know, maybe guidelines for all productions that are done, for example, in Svenska Teater. So I don't think it can be only left for the director who comes, because if it's an organization, it will define a lot of the options. You think that, okay, director can do what they want in a production, but they really can't if it's against kind of the policies of the organization. So I think it needs to happen in a production level. Of course, the director has the responsibility, but then organizational level also.
And to complete this, I would say that it's also an issue about the not only the director, but the let's say theater manager, and what kind of relationship you want to establish with the audience, because needs courage to present a show and to defend a show where people don't speak perfect Finnish or Swedish, and that's the beauty and that's the richness. But you need also to establish a dialogue with the audience and to show, okay, maybe that actor doesn't speak perfect Swedish, but there is much more happening. But this is a big work that needs to be done, and it's happening slowly. And I think now I'm talking about the Finnish context. There is a big clash because everybody acknowledges that let's say the general audience is aging, and there is a difficulty to renew the audience.
Yeah.
So I think this issue of diversity is not just a question of about immigrants and blah blah blah, but it's really a question of generation.
Yeah.
Because the younger generation with TikTok and social media, they are much more exposed to diversity, and for them it's totally normal. And it's not only that the Finnish youngster they mix Finnish and English, but for them it's totally normal that there are different cultural references. And I think theater should really start to question how to renew itself, to embrace that in order to reach, we were talking this also in the beginning, how to reach the new audience.
Yeah.
So they need to start to speak this language that is much richer.
Yeah. So finally, I hope you got the answers. The second one we didn't take now, but okay. Finally, I would like to hear about your hopes about the future. Like, let's say in 5 years, if we just take 5 years, it's a short period of time. What are your hopes, and what do you think about the next generation, the theater of the next generation in Finland? And this is a very big question, and we just have a couple of minutes, but come on, let's do it. Who wants to start? Who wants to say something?
Well, I can start.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Well, I hope that the project New Theatre Helsinki will transform itself, and a venue will exist in Helsinki where diversity and inclusiveness will be commonplace, where multilingualism will be commonplace, where foreigner directors can come and work with Finnish actors and also international actors living in Finland, that the question of, I feel bad because I don't speak proper Finnish is not an issue, so that we can celebrate the diversity, which is already here. As you said in the beginning, 1/5...
every sixth inhabitant in Helsinki.
So it's already here, but these people cannot celebrate themselves. They feel that they are not part of the Finnish society. They are not part of Helsinki because they don't see their stories. So I think my dream is that this is happening, and these people can also come and see that, wow, I'm here. And that, again, that is not a segregation. It's a bridge. between the so-called Finnish professionals and the immigrant communities, where diversity and multilingualism can be present.
Do you see this coming, guys?
Well, I would like to see that coming.
Yeah, I believe.
I see the light. I see the
there
light.
is hope.
Yeah?
I always like to say this phrase that if we have a crack on the wall and we keep painting over it or putting masking tape, it really doesn't take away the problem.
No.
So maybe we just start feeling that crack as we move forward. So individually and generally as a society.
My wish for the future is that we could maybe re-evaluate the kind of the need for nostalgia in a theatre,
Right.
and maybe move on a bit, because I feel that it's a big thing we do about our history, all this thing. So
Independence
yes.
Day.
So so could we turn a theatre into a place where we imagine new futures and more than you will always have both, but maybe the weight could move a little bit from nostalgia to today and to the future. This is my wish.
Anastasia, do you want to take part of this kind of Finland?
Oh, absolutely. And I was just thinking about the bubbles that I mentioned earlier, and I really hope that we would be able to create the professional field that would be less segregated in its own bubbles, but there would be much more interaction and collaboration within it. And also that includes actually your second question, I think, and because the idea of having a bubble of the artistic field separately from the bubble of the audience is a absolutely impossible thought for me. It's one doesn't exist with another, and that's one of the issues that also New Theatre Helsinki is tackling, and we haven't talked much about narratives. But that's one of the issues of including and respecting and listening to the audience, and then bringing that to the stage and having this conversation on a societal level, and that also brings probably more equality in the economical aspect of funding the art and culture in Finland, for instance, but all in all.
Yeah. Listen, guys, this discussion is coming to an end at this time.
Really?
Yes.
It's only opening.
But it has been, I know, it's so complex, and we could talk for hours about this, but I want to thank you all for taking part of this discussion. Of course, Godwin Otieno, Anastasia Trizna, Davide Giovanzana, and Saana Lavaste. And make sure to visit the New Theatre Helsinki Festival. Begins tomorrow at Nicken Stage. You can get the tickets from Svenska Teatern webshop or here at the theater. Och Scenmåndag är ju tillbaka igen nästa månad, den 20 mars. Då ska vi prata om barn- och ungdomsteater. Vi får besök av några av Nordens ledande aktörer inom den branschen, och vi ska se relevansen och betydelsen bland barn- och ungdomsteater. Vi ses då. Ha det bra. Hej då.